Welcome to another chat on Awakenings. This is chapter 5 we're up to, which is interesting because I'm writing those that are interested or that have read my book. I'm in the process of writing 18 modules, and Linda and I have designed or predominantly Linda, of course, designed 72 cards. So 18 modules divided into 4 cards for each module, which is 72 cards. So that's something we're working on, like a healing card. So that's stay tuned. That's a bit down the track, but something we're working on. And we're also working on, I've been writing, each module talks about like surrender or heart or discovering certain aspects. So the way it's going, it'll be a lot bigger than the book. But it's breaking things down. The book talks about the experience of Jackson and ways through, and it talks about ways to unravel or disentangle the way we think, disentangle our thought processes to lessen the pain, our pain body. And it's to liberate yourself from your suffering. It'll be pretty big, but we're looking to do videos like a potential course in breaking down certain aspects of the psyche. So it simplifies things in a way, but it will also bring up stuff in a way. But it gives reasoning as to why and how to question your thoughts and work through things. So it's a bit of a guidebook that we're working on. And yesterday and today, I was writing sections on reflecting. And just so happens that chapter 5 is reflecting the key to change. So the chapter starts with some of my experiences. I was always sort of a bit submissive in a way. Well, put it this way. I didn't like conflict. I tried to avoid conflict as much as I could. And that's a sense of disempowerment because I wouldn't stand up for myself if someone, even passive aggressive, or especially if someone was passive aggressive towards me, I'd just sort of look the other way. I didn't want to offend them, even though they were offending or attacking me on some level. And I found a fire. So there were some changes within me that happened in the beginning of 2012 where I found a fire. The chapter starts, these next experiences changed my life. I've never been the same since. And that's true to this day. A veil lifted. I went through some change. I broke open. I cracked open, you could say. So the second paragraph, the first one is just basically a sentence. The second paragraph is, I felt angry at not being able to speak with my son in July 2012. I was able to feel it. It was a natural response. I was hurting inside. I then realized how much his mother in the phone call was hurting. Even if she blamed me, I could not hold that against her. And I refused to gauge how much I opened my heart based on another's view of me and my circumstances. It makes no sense. A number of questions came to me whilst driving to an appointment, which led to an amazing new outlook on life itself. So I've summarized in the book, and I took time to write this anyway, so it's probably easy if I read it, and then I can possibly expand and go into the discovery. But this is the discovery that happened, and it's amazing that when you're cracked open sometimes and you feel vulnerable, broken and open, and you're seeking answers, it's amazing what can come of that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel that we need to, when we're suffering, we tend to grasp for something solid, something to hold on to, something to cling to. And I have a different viewpoint from that based on my own experience. You sort of free fall and you ask questions, and you do that from a place that when you're cracked open, if you do it from there, amazing things can come in, amazing insights can happen. So I wasn't looking to blame. I was just seeking genuinely within me understanding. The first question that arose, what am I really seeking from this person that's causing me pain? My heart then answered back. So this is my intuition. I wasn't, sorry. There's a difference from trying to fill a gap with an answer in your head based on fear. There was no fear. I was open. I was genuine and open, and I was yearning. I really wanted answers, and I wanted true answers. I wanted something to free myself. So you could say I was seeking the word of God in a way. I was seeking something, or the divine, whatever it is. Like God can be a trigger for some people, but I was just open. I was surrendered enough for some insight to come through, and that's an understatement. I'll read the first question again. The first question that arose, what am I really seeking from this person that's causing me pain? My heart then answered back, why can't she see me? Why can't she see my heart? The answer to this was that it was impossible. We did not even speak. On top of this, I knew she was hurting too much to see me, to see how I was or who I was. Upon realizing this, I was able to let it go. It was not necessary anymore. The idea of needing her approval simply melted away. That led to the next question, which mysteriously popped into my mind's eye. The big one. I inquired within me, after all the pain and hurt projected onto me, and all the lies, conflict, and misunderstandings that have been said, if the circumstances were completely reversed and my kids were with me, would I at the very least stop or distract my kids from speaking with their mother on the phone? I received my answer instantly. I could not. It wasn't in me. I knew it would eat into my conscience like cancer. I then asked myself, what would I have to be feeling to not be aware of that guilt? I realized that I would have to be fully immersed in my own thoughts, my own suffering, my own pain. So what that talks about is family court proceedings was going on. A lot of things was thrown out there. There was just a bit of a war going on. So there's always turmoil with family court, and people say things and write things and that they don't necessarily mean. So that's what that's in reference to. Of there were limitations to my access to my children. There were a lot of things going on, and it's not all my ex's fault in a way. Like there's no condemnation here. It's based on circumstances. My ex-partner, all sorts of things going, not just her. There's many factors involved. So there's no condemnation. And when one's suffering, then you tend to make decisions based on fear. So after this question, when I realised that I would have to be fully immersed in my own thoughts, my own suffering, my own pain, to even restrict access or limit phone calls. In that moment, I knew that it wasn't personal. It was a way of coping for her, as I would have had to be immersed in my thoughts and feelings of pain and suffering. So was she. At that moment, I realized for the first time in my entire life that I had a beautiful heart. I truly felt it. So when you fall victim to your pain and your anger and your fear, you can't feel your heart. I understood in that moment that it was because of her pain, her suffering, that she was making the choices she was making. And it's amazing when you get lost in a situation. Let's say you're in an abusive relationship, or it might be a nice relationship. You've had a fight. We've had a few fights, or there's some pressure within the relationship. It might be financial, could be the vaccine, could be anything today. When two people fight, you get lost in you can't distinguish which is your pain, which is theirs. It's like you put two ingredients in a pot and stir it together. You can't distinguish what's yours and what's theirs, the anger, the frustration. Often we feel that if there's something dumped on us, it's our fault, it's our problem. It all gets immersed into one. This is my experience. I said, I'm not a psych, but understanding that the choices, the decisions that were made, even the ones I didn't like, was based in their fear and their pain. I was able to, instead of taking on board their pain, their suffering, and feeling responsible for their pain and suffering, which as long as I believe that I'm responsible for another's pain and suffering, and if I'm actively trying to make them suffer, then I am obviously partly responsible. But when you're not, and you know you're not, and you realize that their choices is based solely on how they're feeling within themselves, that is something profound, something to behold. And I realized, because I had no contact, so there's no toing and froing between my ex and myself. So from there, I could distinguish what was mine and what was hers. Like I said, there's no ill will towards my ex at all. Like everyone does the best they can, and I had said things I didn't mean, and in family court, it was war for a while. But something broke free, and in that moment where I understood that when people make certain choices and it's based on fear, then the choices are almost always wrong. If you can't feel what's right and wrong within yourself, then guilt is the one that keeps you on track ultimately. And when you're immersed in your own suffering, it's hard to feel guilty, because instead of trying to work out what's right or wrong, trying to find the balance, you just justify all your actions and all your choices. And that's a place of suffering. So what set me free was realizing I had a beautiful heart and understanding the other person. People don't look this direction. They rarely do. But especially when you're in a war with someone, or so-called war, or you're competing with another person, doesn't matter who it is, whether it's someone with a family member or partner or ex-partner, you lose yourself in that battle. And to understand where they're coming from and to let go, that is how you set yourself free. And actually, you and I, Linda, were just talking about this just before this call, where it's easy to assume that if I understand the other person or try and get their perspective, then I'm sympathizing with them, or I'm justifying on their behalf, or they're winning. But it's not actually like that. It's the opposite to that. If you get a sense of the other person, you will begin to feel free. It's amazing. You're not giving your power away. You're taking it back because you're daring to understand something beyond yourself or beyond your own perspective. You get a sense of the other person. That doesn't mean you're certainly not going to jump on board going, yeah, I'm glad they did this to me. It's like, no, I can see how they could do that and understand that they're fearing or they're angry or whatever's going on within them. They're afraid, or they might think that they could lose the kids, especially when kids are involved. It could be anything. So you'll gain great insight. It's like two countries at war. It's like going to the other country. And it's like, you can't go to the other country, you're vulnerable. But you're not. You're just getting a sense of the reasons they're going to battle. If you're prepared to look outside yourself, you'll get a sense. And it's obviously different between two countries, but you can really get a sense of how the other person feels. And then you can see how they can justify their own decision making. And that just takes the burden off yourself. And you start understanding on a deeper level. And it's amazing. It almost doesn't make sense, but it makes complete sense. If you understand the other person, you get a sense of how they feel within themselves. You will stop blaming yourself. And this is the key, really. You'll stop blaming yourself for their suffering, especially if you're not trying to hurt the other person. You will be able to free yourself from the burden that they're putting on you, that you're believing it, that you're the reason that they're suffering and you're the reason that they're justifying all their words and their actions. It is liberating. It is amazing. So I truly encourage, from my own experience, get a sense of how the other person or anyone that you have conflict with that you care about, or that you have, you share children or whatever it is, get a sense of how they're feeling. It doesn't, like I said, it doesn't mean you'll sympathize with them. It just means you'll be able to set yourself free and stop blaming yourself by being unaware. People don't realize how much they blame themselves for a certain conflict with the other person. And that's where the old saying is, it doesn't matter who you lie to as long as you're true to yourself. It's coming to terms with yourself and how you are. It is so profound. So, and this is I'll just read the next paragraph. This is what happened after I tasted my heart for the first time. I realized that there was no malice. And actually, it's interesting that most people, a lot of people, especially when you're in turmoil, you think, if given the opportunity, I'd be like that, but I'd even be worse. I'd make life harder for them, or I'd get them back. I'd seek revenge. But that's not truly how we are. I don't feel it's how we are. Within us all, we want peace, we want integrity, we want balance in our life. We don't want to hurt anyone, truly. Anyone that's in touch with the heart doesn't want to hurt anyone, truly believe. And anyone wants to harm others or restrict others, they don't have integrity. They may feel they're superior, but it's an idea. It's not how they actually are. This is how I feel. This is what I've understood. So the next paragraph. During this reflecting, I was driving to Barcelona for a meeting. Questioning my feelings while being open to understanding myself and others allowed me to break down barriers that were stopping me from accessing my heart. This created an unforeseen domino effect to other false ideas I had clung to. In that moment, when I realized I wasn't causing the suffering with my ex-wife, I felt my true heart. The feelings of intense love poured through me. I felt I was going to explode. As this began, I saw my mind reaching out, trying to create a scenario to cover what I'd discovered, trying to hook or capture me. It went as quick as it came. I fell into laughter. Laughing out loud, I knew in that moment that no thought can ever taint or cover what I'd found. I felt overwhelmed with love as I drove. I wanted to stop and hug every tree. I would have if I wasn't running late at the time. Not that I was feeling at all concerned. Everything was just perfect. The more love I felt, the more I gave back to nature all around me. At the same time, I knew that what I had finally found is in everyone, which is universal heart. It is our natural way. Everyone shows softness, love, and nurturing at times, but mostly with close family or with people they feel they can trust. We all have the capacity. It is only fear, pain, and anger that blinds us through misunderstanding. That pure love is in us at all times. So it's reflecting, and it's the key. And so just completed writing or expanding on reflecting. Reflecting is the absolute key to working through things. It really is. It's people don't speak about it much or enough. And I think when a lot of people reflect, they just go over the situation and they try and justify their actions. I truly feel to deeply reflect, you must seek answers, not justification, understandings. You must seek understandings for the circumstances, and as many as you can. It's about gaining a holistic approach. So I feel the first step in a situation where there's been some pain or conflict, if you feel like you're the victim, understand, reflect and look what you could have done better or you could have done more. Don't beat yourself up. I feel the first thing is with any reflecting, don't beat yourself up. Seek understanding. So if you feel like you were the victim, just understand that you did what you could based on what you had access to within yourself. So how you dealt with a situation is based on your emotional state of mind, or your emotional state, your mental state, even your physical state, everything. So it's dependent on your overall being of how you feel and how you felt at the time and what you have had access to and your understandings. So you can easily look back and think, well, I should have done this, I should have done that. But in that very moment, in that experience or the exchange or the conflict, you made the choices that you made based on everything you had access to within yourself. So there's no point in judging that it was right or wrong. Well, justifying in a sense. You can say, well, it probably shouldn't have happened. I shouldn't have done this, or they shouldn't have done that. That's easy to see when you reflect and you look back later. But in that very moment, you did the best you can with everything you had access to. And that's the same for the other person. Even if they're abusive, like they may be completely mixed up. And if we're talking about like physical or sexual abuse, then clearly they are very messed up and there's something seriously wrong with that person and they need help. They might need a bullet, but I shouldn't probably say that. But, depending on how they are, some people are predators and they're just evil.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying you can help everyone. I'm certainly not saying that. But even if you understand the other person's evil, and maybe they deserve death penalty if they've done, enough bad things. But it doesn't mean that you'll think that it's justified what they've done. You'll just understand that. I think part of the confusion, the conflict for a lot of people is we think others are like us. And we think, how can they think like that? How can they feel this? And how can they do this or that? I truly feel, in my experience, that the further away from your heart you are, the less you feel, or the more pain you feel.
Mm.
And I truly feel that when you are, let's look at worst case scenario. If someone's evil, then their heart, what you call a heart, is like a darkness they can barely feel. It seems to me that those that barely feel have to do drastic things to get some feeling, to try and find something. So they'll do things that we couldn't even possibly bear or imagine because they don't feel, because they're in such a numb, disconnected place that the things, like a ray of sunshine or enjoying a flower or something we could enjoy, but like they are numb. And then if they start feeling that, to start confronting themselves, and that there's no avoiding your heart. Ultimately, it always wants to germinate in a sense. So I feel that the darker these people are, and there's some pretty dark satanic people around the world, I believe. And I'm not saying we can help them. I'm just saying understand that that's how they are. So you can let go of your own burden, because these people will prey on almost anyone. So reflecting doesn't give them power. It sets you free. And this is obviously, this might be just in a loving relationship, you've had a fight with someone who might reflect on that and look at how you could have handled it better. But if you reflecting is almost like meditation. You can look at a situation and look at what you could have done more and get a deeper sense of yourself and the other person. So your understanding and awareness therefore expands. And expanding awareness is what spirituality is all about, is awareness. So any way that we can expand our awareness, we must try. And I definitely feel it's worth getting into practice, whether it's meditation, yoga, or something, or sit and reflect every day. It'd be great to do that at the end of each day and just get a sense of yourself. And you'll find you won't be so lost. You'll start getting a sense of yourself, and within that you get answers and deeper understandings that without reflecting you would not otherwise gain, unless reflecting and meditation, I feel, are very similar. Reflecting is so important, and it's potentially not what you think. It's about understanding, not justification. It does not give your power away. It empowers you. True, deep understanding is what will set you free from burdens within yourself. So, towards the end of chapter 5, another valuable lesson I've learned: when I hear negative views of someone, I may be cautious from their view or opinion, but I will still rely upon my own intuition or feeling from relating with that person referenced. I feel it's healthy to be cautious in general, but not to project or rush to form an opinion. We must learn to trust our own intuition. We don't have to blindly believe in others, even if it's a good friend. No matter who says anything to me, and I might go, I don't get a good feel for that person, I'll still go there and get a sense for myself. We don't know who triggers who. It's about learning to trust our intuition at all times, rather than have to remember who said what and about who, so we know how to be around other people. We must learn to trust ourselves and rely on ourselves. And this is empowerment, self-empowerment. The book talks about a number of psychologists that went through assessed Jackson, and a psychiatrist that assessed Jackson. So I won't go into the detail of that, but because that's what the book's for. But it took him on quite an interesting journey where had psychologists. Actually, I probably won't go there because I brought up that last time with the comment in court.
Oh, I guess we need to leave something for them to actually read.
Yeah. Well, a lot of this, like, I haven't read a lot of this chapter, but I've read enough. So the final paragraph of chapter 5, and this is really a book in a nutshell. This story isn't the most important part of this book. It's about lessons you gained along the way. I've tried to keep this chapter as short as possible. One can get lost in the detail. I don't wish that for you. The more you resonate with these experiences, the more I hope you will gain courage to work through your own challenges. No matter what happens in our lives, there is always hope. So I could have written a lot more on the drama within the book, but I just wanted to give people enough. But I feel it really takes the head and shoves it underwater and quite a bit. It's pretty intense, but then it pulls them up. It's all about really the insights and the understandings. And it's about trying to help one break through their own suffering and challenge their minds and the automatic patterns, the ways people think that sustains to varying degrees their own suffering. Or I would say, put it another way, we tend to feel, I believe that most people, the happiness that they feel day to day is the happiness they feel they deserve. And book is about encouraging others or you to feel that you deserve more. As you become more and more aware, you will find that you will feel that you deserve more fulfillment and happiness and meaning in your life. And you'll start challenging the autopilot that says, this is what you deserve. And the bottom line, that's what everything the book's about, is encouraging you to feel and accept that you deserve more happiness, more meaning, more fulfillment. It's designed to challenge your autopilot, the way you think and feel, that you may not be necessarily aware of. So it's designed to try and wake you up in a simplified read. So that's it for chapter 5, reflecting, the key to change.
Yeah. Well, it definitely seems to work because it's made me very reflective of my past and my past trauma. So Definitely works.
Thank you. Is that chapter 5 from the book, or is that from the other stuff I wrote as well? It's probably brought up as well.
I think because that brought it up initially, but then because we're talking about it now, it's just like that's all I've been thinking about while we've been listening to.
Yeah. Okay. So that's
in a bad way, not in a bad way, but it's just reflecting on it.
Yeah, and that's it. Don't be afraid to reflect. It's where all the answers are. Reflecting is the key to opening all doors within yourself, and that's speaking from experience. And I challenge those that disagree, don't know how to reflect properly. I'll throw that out there.
It's like watching a movie of yourself, but as yourself as a main character, and I'm just trying to distance yourself a little bit from the emotional investment you have in that to maybe give you a clearer perspective on exactly what is happening.
Yeah. Good point. Great point. So the emotional investment, great thing to say. So what is emotional investment? It's protecting. If you don't reflect, you're protecting the emotional investment. You're investing in your emotions. Reflecting is investing in your awareness. It's expanding your awareness. So it doesn't mean that you will feel less. The more you become aware, the more capacity to feel. You will have far more capacity to feel, but it won't be all over the place. You'll feel more deeply because you won't be so fearful, so afraid. You'll start trusting yourself in more situations rather than fearing a situation because of something you have not worked through in the past. So it is liberating. Yeah. So it's a great point that you brought up, the emotional investment. It's about unraveling that. Therefore, you start relying, instead of thinking, I have no choice, I'm the victim. And that may have been the case, but it doesn't have to be the case now. So the more aware you are, you may get a feel, no, I'm not going to go there, not going to do this. It doesn't mean you're living in fear. It just means that your intuition, that inner voice, your gut, it's always been there to guide you, but people stop listening to it. They don't allow it to guide them enough. Mm-hmm. And if I get a bad feeling, I might think, I feel a bit funny today. So it's not I'm going to lock myself at home. I'll just go out with caution. Yeah. If I get a funny feeling, I'll take a bit more care, I'll be a bit more cautious. I'm not going to think, I'll stay home today because I get a bad feeling. Mm-hmm. It's about just trusting what you feel and using that to guide your awareness. Mm-hmm. So great point. Because there's so much misunderstanding around reflection. And it's amazing how people try and protect, I might put this in there, it's amazing how people try and protect their suffering, their misery, their emotional state, their vulnerability, or not. It's not even being vulnerable. They feel vulnerable. They feel vulnerable, but they protect those things all the pain and the suffering, and they protect those things that weaken them.
But I think, one of the things that people need to be aware of is when they remember things like this, it replays. Say stuff happened to you when you were 5, 8 years old, whatever. You go back into the emotions of that child, and that's where you need to distance yourself from, because you are no longer that child. You are no grown adult that shouldn't be feeling what a 5-year-old felt, because you now have the power.
Yeah, I think it's a key thing to put in. So you're talking about going in there as the first person, but ultimately, and that's normal. So you have to develop the courage to become the third person. So instead of becoming the actor, you are the movie camera, so to speak.
Yeah, but you're not that same person either. You're not that 5-year-old anymore. You are a different person, so completely.
Well, I wouldn't say completely in a way. So you resonate with that person.
Yeah.
So there's a connection, there's a link.
Yeah.
So I feel that it might be easy to think I'm not that person anymore, but you sort of still are in a way, an evolved person from that person. And to evolve more, you have to integrate with that person to understand what they're feeling. So it might be easy in some ways to disconnect, to see it as a third person, as in to see it like a video camera's filming. But you have to connect with a person to get a sense of how they're feeling. You have to have the courage to understand and understand the fear or the what you went through. And I would put it like this. This is, I feel, very important. like a mother would a child. If a child's been abused, for example, you don't turn your back on the child and go that you deal with it. I'm not going to. If you're a mother or a father, you become the parent. And this is what you have to do psychically within yourself. This is huge. You must take steps towards that person, which is yourself, that's been abused. And even if you imagine this within yourself, and I feel it's a great place to start, go and give that child a hug. Take some steps towards that child and just embrace that child, which is you, as the parent, as the protector. Because we naturally think in a way that we protect the child by not going back into that memory. But ultimately, you must go back in there and resolve it. So it's amazing how so many people have been, too many people, I should say, have been abused, but they don't go back and fix it. They need to go back as the parent and embrace and hug and nurture and protect that child, which was them, deeply nurture and hold them. So I will not turn my back on you anymore. This is huge. This can make people break down, but it's needed.
It could be, incredible, huge.
Yeah. So give that child, give yourself a hug as a parent and go, I'm here with you always. I will not keep you in the darkness anymore. We are going to become one. You are part of my life. I'll protect you. We are now. I'm sorry?
Yeah. You are safe.
Yeah. And then it's like, and if we aren't, let's say the child that was abused and the older parent or person or teenager, if they're not safe in a sense, then you do what you need to become safe. But you don't, it's like people build walls around this inner child. They just disregard. They have to get in touch with this inner child. And this is what it's all about, spirituality as well, and becoming free and whole. Let's say that person abused was not by anyone to do with a parent, because it's the idealistic parent that is protector. And as a child, it's always been in the back of your mind, where is the parent, what was going on? If it was someone outside, or there's so many things. You blame yourself, you blame the parent, you blame everyone. Ultimately, when you're older, you have to become your own parent, because your parents will, if it's been an abusive situation, I feel, I'm not an expert still, I'll make that clear. This is my experience, my intuition, and everything I feel. Your parents, if there's a situation, they may feel very sorry, or that they'll be beating themselves up if something happened to their child. I would.
Mm-hmm.
It's natural to go there,
Yep.
But the greatest healing would be fantastic for a parent to say, I wasn't there, or something happened, and I'll never let that happen again, or I'll guide you, I'll help you wherever you need, whatever you need. But you have to do it for yourself. You have to take responsibility. So you have to take responsibility and nurture yourself, all aspects of yourself, especially the child aspect within you.
Mm.
So to get in touch with that, you have to go back in the circumstance and embrace that broken child, and even sort of almost carry this, you have to carry the sentiment, it's okay now, I'm here. And it's you speaking to you. But that will allow some healing to take place. And I feel that is absolutely necessary, is what I truly feel within me.
100%.
And then it expands from the child first person to third person. So you can be like an extra that's just there on the side helping the child through that memory. And then ultimately it will expand out, and then you become more than just the two people, the nurturer or the parent or the protector of that child. And then you understand the circumstances around that. And then it goes bigger. You might be, at a certain home, in a certain town, in a certain state, in a certain country where this is rampant. And then you look at everything. You look at the nature of that possible environment. And the more you understand on a bigger scale, the more you can carry awareness going forward, and the more you can make changes, and you can accept the fact that there was nothing you could do, but you can make changes now. So I think it's key to remember that there are bad people out there, and we're talking about the worst case scenario, but to varying degrees, this is what must be done for all conflict. It's what I feel. Reflecting is trying to seek answers and understanding. And the answers may be just, what do I do now? And the understanding will help you to to decide what to do now, what the best thing is. So if you don't understand, then you don't know where to go. Like everything, it feels like every choice you make will be wrong. The understanding will give you insight into what you must do now. That's the key. And that's how, when I say it's reflecting is the key to unlocking all doors, this is what it's about. It's about the more awareness and the more understanding you have of a situation, the more you can nurture that inner child and protect that inner child. And that the more you become whole, because all aspects of yourself is starting to, it's like the data from one experience and the data from the parent's experience merges together. So then the information they have access to is enhanced. And then you'll start knowing the way forward. Instead of feeling frozen that you don't know which way to turn. And then the more you walk in a particular direction based on your deeper understanding of a situation or something from the past, the more the road will unravel in front of you, is what I feel. But it's important to, the first step that you make, you gather as much as you can. And instead of going through fear, you work through what you can and you make the best choice based on everything you have access to. And pretty full on.
Yeah.
But I'm glad you brought up those points because I think that's key, because I just think, we talk about reflecting, but until you really go into certain circumstances, it needs to be broken down.
It was kind of interesting because you were saying how if you imagine yourself going in as a parent, going in to comfort that child, it was. I actually did that as an adult. So like I imagined myself hugging myself and doing the Ho'oponopono kind of thing almost myself, but as an adult, not as a child.
Yeah, well, this is the thing when you do meditation, go in as a child, see yourself as even a 2-year-old and just give yourself a hug, and just like a massive loving hug, and just do that often, and you'll start healing. You'll start opening up on other levels, I feel.
I did it. I never did it as a child. I never thought to do it as a child. I just did it as an adult, like me loving myself, forgiving myself, and all that sort of stuff.
Isn't that interesting? Because I'd naturally go into as a child, because I remember as a child feeling lost, like in the past, present, future, or crossover in the now. And I might even add this part in there. There's times in my life where I've gone through suffering and despair and not knowing which way to go forward. And I heard a voice at times within me, or like inner calling of just hang in there, like just hang in there. And in the last few years, I've actually imagined myself, and there's many ways to heal, and this is one of them, where you can see yourself as a child and pretend that there's a portal where you can communicate with that child, with yourself. And there's been a number of times where I've been deeply in my heart and I've said to myself as a child and at different stages of my life where I've suffered, and I've just whispered to myself, just hang in there, just hang in there. Everything is going to be okay. And because it's realms within realms, I'd have to feel that, okay, maybe that voice was myself in the future, reaching back to the past. So then there was a time where I felt drawn to do that anyway, to the past me. And it's all in the now. It's realms within realms. And there's other experiences I'd go into potentially, but pretty profound, pretty deep.
Yeah.
And it comes from that must come from not a matter of just hang in there, a real deep nurturing within the heart, just hang in there. It's like you speak to a child that they have to feel you. They can't just hear your words. So when you get in touch with your inner child, you reflect with your inner child, they must feel you more than anything else, So then on a deeper level, go and start nurturing yourself now. Subconsciously, you've sort of been avoiding yourself as a child. So when you hug yourself, even as a parent, so it's time to go and get that child now.
Interesting.
Profound.
Yeah.
All right. Well, there you go. Good. Hey?
Come out on the other end. Okay, I can go relax now. Yep. Feels like I got ding, ding, 10 rounds.
Yeah. Come on, process and nurture.
Yes.
All right. So chapter 6, finding worth be true to you. And it's a perfect chapter to be following on from reflecting, the key to change, because people don't talk about reflecting enough. It is everything. It is huge.
Mm-hmm.
It will allow change. If anyone would like to comment on any of these things, by all means, do so. Look forward to any feedback. And thanks for listening in. Stay tuned for Chapter 6. Thanks for listening. Bye for now.